So continuing on from our last video, we talked about the intake rollers. There's also universal joints, and if you have two shafts coming in that they're not, collinear, they're not lined up, but they might be at a little bit of a different angle, you can use these universal joints. You might have seen these before with like a socket set or something like that. And we have the gearbox bracket. There's also these tank tread kits that you can use, and they're adjustable. Each says here each section is a master link, so you can adjust the length that you want and use these sprockets here to be able to, if you want to use a tank tread drive in your robot. Something else that might come in handy is this linear motion kit. So in other words, if you want to have some kind of slide that moves linearly straight in or out, you can use one of these linear motion kits, and there's a CAD file and documentation on that. So if we look at the documentation, you can see how it goes together. So you just have a motor and a pinion, in the rack you can see just as like a straight line of gear teeth, and you can use that then to slide this back and forth. So let's see if I move down a little bit. So in other words, you can have that set up here and then control this, have it slide back in and out. And then there's also this, it's called this Advanced Mechanics in Motion kit. So this is kind of interesting. You have bevel gears, so they're gears that can be mounted at 90 degrees. You have a worm gear, you can see this kind of looks like a worm, and that drives a larger gear. And then you have this this rotary cam, which you can see as you turn it, the radius is increasing. So that's kind of interesting. These are probably things you're not going to use in this first pass at building a robot, but interesting nonetheless. And VEX also has this turntable bearing kit. So you might, suppose you had some kind of mechanism or arm, and you needed to be able to swivel it from one side, say the right side of the robot, over to the left side, something like that. So this has bearings in it, and you can drive this gear to control the position, and so that might come in handy at times as well. And then of course VEX also, if you get the typical robot kit, then you also get a claw kit, and that obviously can be useful for certain tasks as well. So what we want to do next is just take a look at the instructions for building your Basebot, and maybe just comment on a few of the parts that we've been talking about and how they're going to be used in your Basebot. We've looked at a lot of different parts now, and now it's time for you to go ahead and build the Basebot assembly. So because we've been talking about these parts, I thought it'd be good just to go ahead and look at some of the ways that the parts are used in this Basebot. So again, this is just using some of the angles and the different metal available and the Kep's nuts and so on. I think that's pretty straightforward for you to do. You'll be able to look at the video of someone actually putting these parts together if you need any clarification on that. So here the bearings are being mounted and the motors, and you can see that there's bearings on both sides. So the idea again is that the motor will not provide any radial or lateral support to that axle. All it has to do is provide the torque or the twist. And here you can see again there's a bearing on this side, a bearing on that side, so that these axles are supported in two places. Here's a little bit, maybe a little bit clearer picture that you can see. Here's the bearing, and here's a bearing, and the axle going through, and then this to the motor, and then this is these two gears it's just a 1-to-1 ratio. And let's so there you have the high traction wheels in the back, because those are the driven wheels, and then to make it easier to turn, this is just a hard plastic wheel. Now I will say that in terms of design, we can get away with it because this thing isn't very